This is going to be 2 healer tier lists for Midnight Expansion Season 1. One for Raid and one for M+, with some additional explanations for class rankings. There seems to be more class tuning coming as Blizzard seems more willing to do small changes throughout the season. However, it mostly seems to reduce some imbalances and remove any major powers. A tier reshuffle seems highly unlikely. If any happen, I'll note in the pinned comment. Also, I will be making guides for most of these healers. M+, Beast tier, Resto Druid. Everything about this class is too good right now. High healing output, fitting healing profile, not cooldown dependent, a dispel that will see a ton of usage, raid buff, crowd control, utility, tanky. I can keep talking, but you probably already heard everyone say it, is just that good right now. The only threat to Druid is Druid. I do not fully understand tanks, but from the mystical act of reading, I saw that Guardian might be meta. Should that happen, a lot of our utility will be duplicated. Should still be S tier regardless, but worth mentioning. A tier, Holy Paladin. Despite some weird last-minute nerf on Empyrean Legacy, which will hopefully be reverted, this is the only other key push healer. The output is slightly lower than that of Druid, however, the heal profile is perfect. Multiple beacons, damage reduction, and solid cleave are complemented nicely by the usually strong Paladin externals for both single target protection or utility. Honestly, Paladin would be a strong contender for Beasts, if not for the slightly lower output, and a raid buff that does not help party damage output, which, as we all know, the DPS will be sure to blame for their underwhelming performance. B tier, Monks. This started out as the worst healer during pre-patch, suffering from mana issues, output, and a ton of bugs. However, currently the gameplay feels much better and the strength matches it. In another season, with another dungeon set and party composition, might have been S tier. However, they lack a proper dispel and healing profile for the current season. The last thing worth mentioning is their average raid buff and solid utility, which, unfortunately, will probably be duplicated by Brewmaster, which will kill this spec for pushing. Next, Shamans. The class pruning might have been slightly more unforgiving for this class, and it shows. With a gameplay that barely makes sense and still having spells that you do not really want to press, this class power matches its feeling. The output is sufficient, but the healing profile truly does not fit M+, which is only worsened by the cooldown-centric healing. The only thing propping this class up is the DPS class's love for their raid buff and a 30-second interrupt. At least they have a good dispel profile. C tier, Holy Priest and Disc Priest. Honestly, despite having different playstyles, both of these specs share the same weaknesses and strengths, therefore land in the same tier spot. Both are cooldown centric and both have lower output than the healers previously mentioned. Holy Priest has a decent healing profile compared to Disc, which might elevate it slightly higher. They lack overall utility and mobility and hold a rather mediocre raid buff. DPS players may slightly disagree because PI is the best invention since sliced bread. Unplayable tier, Preservation Evoker. If I ever mentioned cooldown-centric as a downside for the other healers, do know this is the biggest offender. It genuinely feels like you press your cooldown, which is either enough to make the problem go away, or you die. And even if the CD is enough, which sometimes won't be due to current tuning, you still die to the next damage set. The healing profile does not land, overall output feels low outside CDs, and the raid buff is bad. You do have a Swiss knife dispel, plenty of weird externals, and some well-received rework was done to their range and AoE, but nah. Raid. Duplicate tier, Evoker. This spec is pure, unadulterated, and insane healing output. It might and should get nerfed. This class will probably be brought twice to Race to World First, despite lacking a raid buff, and that should tell you everything. After class pruning, I think they ended up with more and stronger cooldowns than previous iterations. I cannot overstate how strong this is. I genuinely think that once we reach max item level, there is a chance of running 3 healers due to this class.
You're not going to say, oh, it's only a Stunga shots. Hey, Joe, we don't need you and your buddy. We'll make this fair. The book says 3 to 1.
Race to world first tier. Paladin. Output is decent and is coupled with nice tank healing, which might be necessary considering the other healers on the list. Overall, the main reason this will be brought is that it is the best class that carries Devotion Aura, or so I have been told. If Protection Paladin ends up being better than Guardian, then maybe this class drops a few tiers. Otherwise, I see it as necessary. By the way, Light of Dawn rework is a godsend. Next, Discipline Priest. Some strong cooldowns, decent output, and a faster ramp. Some tier lists might rank this a lot lower due to repeated nerfs. However, I still think it is solid. I do not know much about DPS, but I have been told that Shadow is pretty bad, therefore this is the best Fortify raid buff carrier spec. There is some fringe utility with PI, but that is just flavor text as far as I am concerned. A tier, Resto Druid. Blizzard seems to be sticking to their promise of introducing more raw damage in the raids as well as some tank damage, instead of just having big AoEs every minute or so. This fits perfectly with Druid healing profile and above average output thanks to finally having an AoE healing spell in raid. I know it's technical cleave, just let me have this. So then, why is this healer not in Race to World first tier despite looking amazing on paper? Well, just like in M+, the highest threat to a Druid is another Druid. Currently, Guardian Druid looks amazing and I think it will be part of Race to World first, unless they buff Protection Paladin or some other class so we can duplicate Paladin or Priest buffs. I do not see how the raid will have room for Resto Druid. Again, this is for Race to World first. In random comps, this is the second best healer. B tier, Holy Priest. This spec is always a make or break situation, depending on his brother's tuning. From an output perspective, they are rather close. However, surprisingly, it is mana issues mostly holding this back. Healing profile is different, but equally good, and utility is the same. This is the one situation of the tier list where I am afraid of tuning changing things, despite being 2 tiers apart from Discipline. It might replace it. C tier, Shaman. Their cooldowns do not seem as strong since the meta shifted from big damn bursts, making Spirit Link less relevant. The other Shaman specs also seem competitive, so this will probably not be your raid buff carrier. Output is decent, but it is not enough to make this spec good. Unlike in M+, the problem here is not the class itself, but more of the fact that it does not fit current raid gameplay or compositions. Next, Monks. Now this class has been buffed a bit since the pruning, but it is not enough. Profile is actually pretty decent, but that is all it has going for it. Output is not enough, the raid buff is definitely being brought by Brewmaster, and utility is... I don't know where utility is, like what utility does... And that is it. Huh, I did not write an outro for this.